So, Hare Krishna. Very amplified here or no? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Take this off. Okay, before I start, I want to go around and get everybody's name, okay? Just indulge my aging memory here. I think I remember you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my name is Isha.
Isha, okay.
Hare Krishna, my name is Najmiya.
Nice to see you, Najmiya, yes.
Hare Krishna, I'm Guneet.
Gurneet? G-U-N-I-V?
G-U-N-E-E-V.
Ah, G-E-E-V, okay, thank you, nice to meet you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my name is Kiran.
Kiran, okay, I have a grandson named Kiran, okay. So,
Siyama Shana.
okay, Siama, yes, good to see you.
My name is Cameraman Jai.
Cameraman Jai, okay.
Hare Krishna, my name is Abhinav.
Abhinav, yes, good to see you. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my name is Rohan.
Rohan, yes, Hare Krishna. Rohan from Halifax? Is that? No.
That's another.
Another Rohan, okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my name is Shyam.
Shyam? Okay. Oh,
Hare Krishna, my name is Om.
Om, okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my name is Pradeep.
Pradeep with a D. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my name is Sarthak.
Good to see you again. Yes, Sarthak, Hare Krishna. Cameraman 2. Himanshu. Antriksh, yes, Antriksh. Good to see you.
Hare Krishna, Amna Hare.
Okay. What's up?
Hare Krishna, Das Atma. Das.
Please help me spell that, Prabhu.
Das Atma Das.
Rasatma. Oh, okay. Sorry. Rasatma. Yes. Good to see you.
Hare Krishna, my name is Ali.
Ali. Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Venkatesh.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Nice to. Oh, I think I remember you. Although last night I thought you were somebody else, but Devansi. Okay. Good. Good to see you. Oh, Monia. Yes, Monia. Good to see you. Okay, thank you for my aging memory. And I've met about 600 people in the last few weeks. All right, so we're reading this morning from the 8th canto. The demigods regain the heavenly planets. And we're doing texts 13 through 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nasta Prayeshwabhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Right, so let's read around, please, starting here. We'll read one translation. Oh, is there more invocation you usually do? Om Jnanatim Randasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurvulitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. In the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Offer my respectful obeisances unto him. All right, so now let's read around. We'll start with text 13, yeah. We start in the back row?
Text 13. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, thereafter addressed Sukracharya, who was sitting nearby in the midst of the assembly with the priests, Brahma, Hota, Udgata, and Admriya. O Maharaj Parikshit, these priests were all Brahmavedis, followers of the Vedic principles for performing sacrifices.
O best of the Brahmins, Shukracharya, please describe the fault or discrepancy in your disciple Bali Maharaj, who engaged in performing sacrifices. This fault will be nullified when judged in the presence of qualified Brahmanas.
Text 15. Sukracharya said, My Lord, you are the Lord and Lord in all probabilities of sacrifice, and you are the Yajna Purusha, person to whom all sacrifices are offered. If one has fully satisfied you, where is the chance of discrepancies, faults, misperformances of sacrifices?
There may be discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing the regulated principles. And moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to time, place, person, and paraphernalia. But when your Lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless.
Lord Vishnu, I must nonlessness act in of their
Obedience.
obedience to your order, because of being your order is most
Auspicious.
auspicious and is the first duty of everyone.
Sukadeva Goswami continued. In this way, the most powerful Shukracharya accepted the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full respect, along with the best Brahmanas, to begin to compensate for the discrepancies in the sacrifices performed by Bali Maharaj.
O King Parikshit, thus having taken all the land of Bali Maharaj by begging the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vamanadeva delivered to his brother Indra all the land taken away by Indra's enemy.
Lord Brahma, the master of King Daksha and all other Prajapati's, accompanied by all the demigods, the great saintly persons, the inhabitants of Chitraloka, the Manus, the Munis, and such leaders as Daksha, Prabhu, and Angira, as well as Kartikeya and Lord Shiva, accepted Lord Vamanadev as the protector of everyone. He did this for the pleasure of Kashyapa Muni and his wife Aditi, and for the welfare of all the inhabitants of the universe, including their various leaders.
O King Parikshit, Indra was considered the king of all the universe, but the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, wanted Upendra or Vamandev as the protector of the Vedas. The principles of religion, fame, opulence, auspiciousness was elevation to the higher planetary system and liberation. Thus, they accepted Upendra, the Lord Vamandev, as the supreme master of everything. This decision made all living entities extremely happy.
Thereafter, along with all the leaders of the heavenly planets, Indra, the king of heaven, placed Lord Vamanadeva before him, and with the approval of Lord Brahma, brought him to the heavenly planet in a celestial airplane.
Indra, king of heaven, being protected by the arms of Vamanadeva, the supreme personality of Godhead, thus regained his rule of the three worlds and was reinstated in his own position, supremely opulent, fearless, and fully satisfied.
Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Kartikeya, the great sage Bhrigu, other saintly persons, the inhabitants of Pitraloka and other living entities present, including the inhabitants of Siddhaloka and living entities who travel in outer space by airplane, all glorified the uncommon activities of the Lord Vamandev. O King, while chanting about and glorifying the Lord, they returned to their respective heavenly planets. They also praised the position of Aditi.
O Maharaj Parikshit, pleasure of your dynasty, I have now described to you everything about the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamandev. Those who hear about this are certainly freed from all the result of sinful activities.
One who is subject to death cannot measure the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Karma, Lord Vishnu, any more than he can count the number of atoms on the entire planet Earth. No one, whether born already or destined to take birth, is able to do this. This has been sung by the great sage Vasishta.
Explaining. If one hears about the uncommon activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its various incarnations, he is certainly elevated to the higher planetary system or even brought back home, back to Godhead.
21. Whenever the activities of Vamana Deva are described in the course of ritualistic ceremony, whether the ceremony be performed to please the demigods, to please one's forefathers in Pitraloka, or to celebrate a social event like a marriage, that ceremony should be understood to be extremely auspicious.
That's right. This is the Palashruti, right? The blessings of hearing this whole pastime, these last 3 verses. Those who hear about this are certainly freed from the results of all sinful activities. And if one hears about these uncommon activities in Krishna's various incarnations, he's certainly elevated to the higher planetary system or even brought back home, back to Godhead. Whenever the activities of Vamanadeva are described in the course of a ritualistic ceremony, whether the ceremony be performed to please the demigods, to one's forefathers, or to celebrate a social event like a marriage, that ceremony should be understood to be extremely auspicious. Nice. Okay, so we're going to go on text 16 in depth, right? Okay. Mantratas tantratas chidram Desha kalar havastutam Sarvam karoti nischidram Anusankirtanam tava Mantratas tantratas chidram Desha kalar havastutam Sarvam karoti nischidram Anusankirtanam tava. Please chant.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Desha kalar havastuta.
Desha kalar havastuta.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Mantratas tantratas chidram. Desha kalar havastutaha.
Sarvam karoti nishchidram.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Mantratas tantratas chidram. Desha kalar havastuta.
Sarvam karoti nishchidram.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Mantratas tantratas chidram. Desha kalar havastuta.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Desha kalarna vastuda.
Desha kalartastuta.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Sarvam karoti nischidram. Anusankirtanam tava.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Mantratas tantratas chidram.
Desha kalarna vastuda.
Desha kalartastuta.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Sarvam karoti nischidram.
Anusankirtanam tava.
Anusankirtanam tava. Mantratas chidram Kalaya vastutam Sarvam karoti nishchidram Hanu sankirtanam tavam. Okay, synonyms we do together?
Yes.
Mantrata, in pronouncing the Vedic mantras improperly. Tantrata, in insufficient knowledge for following regulative principles. Chidram, discrepancy. Desha, in the matter of country. Kala, and time. Arha, and recipient. Vastuta, and paraphernalia. Sarvam, all these. Karoti, makes. Nishchidram, without discrepancy. Anu Sankirtanam, constantly chanting the holy name. Tava, of your lordship. Translation together. There may be discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing the regulative principles, and moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to time, place, person, and paraphernalia. But when your lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. Who would like to read? Go ahead, Anupam.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended.
Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. Oh, Nasteva. Katir Anyata.
In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Brihan Naradiya Purana 38.126. In this age of Kali, it is extremely difficult to perform Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or sacrifices perfectly. Hardly anyone can chant the Vedic mantras with perfect pronunciation or accumulate the paraphernalia for Vedic performances. Therefore, the sacrifice recommended in this age is Sankirtan, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Yagya Sankirtana Praya Instead of wasting time performing Vedic sacrifices, those who are intelligent, those who possess good brain substance, should take to the chanting of the Lord's holy name and thus perform sacrifice perfectly. I have seen that many religious leaders are addicted to performing yagyas and spending hundreds and thousands of rupees for imperfect sacrificial performances. This is a lesson for those who unnecessarily execute such imperfect sacrifices. We should take the advice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although Shukracharya was a strict Brahmana addicted to ritualistic activities, he also admitted, My Lord, constant chanting of the holy name of your Lordship makes everything perfect. In Kali Yuga, the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies cannot be performed as perfectly as before. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami has recommended that although one should take care to follow all the principles in every kind of spiritual activity, especially in worship of the deity, there is still a chance of discrepancies, and one should compensate for this by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore give special stress to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in all activities.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. What a beautiful verse. It just came from Vrindavan and the 50th anniversary of the installation of the deities there. This calls to mind what Prabhupada did at that time. This was what they call Ingles Mandir, the English temple. And the locals were very skeptical about whether these foreigners could properly worship the deities. In those days, there were very few devotees of Indian descent in ISKCON. At one time, Srila Prabhupada said, I'm the only Hindu in ISKCON. Subha Vilas Prabhu was one of a handful right here in Toronto. And so all of his disciples were these very inexperienced and newly minted Vaishnavas from the West, from Australia and North America, and some from South America and from Europe. Here in Vrindavan, the holiest of holy places, worshipping the deity. And Prabhupada was proposing to start a temple there. And so it was a piece of land way out in the sticks, way out in the distant part of Vrindavan, and everyone thought no one will ever go there. It's so far away. But anyway, this nice family who appreciated Prabhupada very much offered to donate the land. They approached the gentleman's land in my wife's name, so it will be up to her. So he agreed, she agreed, and the land was donated. Prabhupada got it signed over right away. But then, actually, the lady was willing to give it. But then the husband thought about it, and he said, I want to put a gas station on the part by the road. You can have the part in the back, but we want to have a gas station up front. And Prabhupada said, no, that will not do. So the lady was very devout, and she said, I will let Krishna decide. So she took 2 pieces of paper, and one she wrote yes, one she wrote no. She put them on the feet of her deities, and then she invited the devotee to come over. He said, whichever one you pick, I will take that as Krishna's arrangement. So he picked the yes. Therefore, there's no gas station in front of Krishna Balaram. So having the land, and Prabhupada began the construction. It was a very laborious, challenging task. The devotees were very inexperienced. Prabhupada called us damn cheap bubbas. He said, you ask how much, they will say 3 times the price, and you'll say, oh, that's damn cheap. So, with these very inexperienced devotees and Prabhupada's determination, somehow the temple was built, it was to be opened, but Prabhupada invited the local Brahmins to come, the most respected local Brahmins to come and perform the rituals for installing the deities. And he sat patiently while they performed these various rituals. He said this was necessary because otherwise people would not accept that the deities were actually authentically installed, because the Westerners would be worshiping them. However, after the ceremony and after all the rituals were done, he said, actually, chanting Hare Krishna would have been sufficient. While all the rituals were going on, the devotees were having kirtan in the background, and Prabhupada said, I was enjoying the kirtan while the rituals were underway. And then he actually writes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that would have been sufficient. But for this reason, we had to have these rituals. So the Vedic text is kind of an ambiguous understanding that we have. How important are the Vedas for our practice of spiritual life? Does anyone remember from the Bhagavad Gita? We all study Bhagavad Gita here, right? So the beginning of the Gita, Arjuna expresses his unwillingness to fight. Then he says, Krishna, you please instruct me. I don't know what to do. So when he begins instructing, Krishna gives 3 initial lessons, okay, as foundational reasons as to why Arjuna should fight. What was the first lesson? These are groups of 10 or 12 or 6 or 8 verses, 3 in a row in chapter 2 of the Gita. First one? What? Nope.
The soul is immortal.
Yes, the soul is immortal. So you may think you're killing people, but you cannot possibly kill their soul. Okay, and then the second one? Himanshu? Kshatriya Dharma, yes. Now you're a warrior, and if you don't fight, people are going to make so much fun of you. You're going to be ashamed. They'll think you were a coward. It's your duty to fight. It's your nature to fight. That's the second series of arguments. What is the third? After this, Atma Dharma and Kshatriya Dharma, then?
Bhagavata.
Not yet. Karma also comes a little bit later. He really lays into the Vedic rituals, because this is one of the arguments that Arjuna gives. It's not Dharma, it's not Vedic. I would be creating so much discrepancy in our practices. Who would offer food to our forefathers? It's described in the Vedas that after the forefathers die, they may be in this position of suffering due to their karma, and their descendants offer water and food. Otherwise, they'll be without water and food. So it's the duty of every child to offer water and food to the ancestors. Anyone familiar with this? You've heard this? Yes, the pinda. So Arjuna says, if we kill everybody, who's going to do that? Among other things, and it will lead to so many anomalies in society. And Krishna really says that following the Vedas is not so important. He says that all the purposes of the Vedas can be fulfilled if one knows the purpose behind them. just as all the purposes of a well can be fulfilled by a large lake. You can wash, you can bathe, you can drink, everything you can do from a well, you can easily do with a great body of water. So in the same way, if we simply know the purpose of the Vedas, then we don't have to worry about the details. And simply to follow the Vedas, Krishna says to Arjuna, is also a shortcoming. It's a misunderstanding. When your mind has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, he uses very strong language, the dense forest of delusion referring to all the Vedic rituals, then you will see the whole picture. So here it is in the Bhagavad Gita, considered the essence of the Vedas, and Krishna's condemning the Vedic rituals. Not condemning, just minimizing. This is one of the beauties of the Vedic tradition that was so different from the one that I grew up in, and perhaps others. It was very dogmatic. It's our way or hell. My friend Anutama Prabhu was telling me about this book distribution encounter he had. He approached a gentleman with the Bhagavad Gita, and the man said, "Oh, anyone who reads that book is going to hell." So Anutama, in his diplomatic communication way, he said, "Oh, so only people who read the Bible are going to heaven?" I said, "Yeah, that's right." "Well, there are Catholics and there are Protestants. Which do you believe?" "Well, I'm a Protestant. And those Catholics, they're also going to hell." See, but there's many different divisions of Protestants. Yes, we have the right one. Only people who follow in our way are going to heaven. Everyone else is going to hell. So you're saying that only people in your church are going to heaven? He said, "Not everyone in my church." So this is a kind of narrow approach to spirituality that people sometimes promote. My God can beat up your God. The two famous comedians from the 60s, Maharaj, you might remember, the Smothers Brothers. So they're talking, and one says, "I think all the religions in the world should come together and discuss what they have in common, their common ground." And the other says, "Oh, you mean a belief in a supreme being?" And he said, "No, a belief that theirs is the best one." So the point is that Krishna, although he puts down the ritualistic performances, he doesn't condemn them outright. He doesn't say they're a waste of time, he just says they're not sufficient. And in other places in the Gita, he gives a hierarchy of spiritual choices. There's one very famous verse or exchange at the beginning of chapter 12. Does anyone remember what question Arjuna asks at the beginning of chapter 12?
Arjuna asks, what is better, something impersonal problem, or unmanifested, I forgot. Arjuna asks Krishna, what is better? I forgot the first part, and the second part is the impersonal Brahman mentions.
Right. To worship you directly or to worship the impersonal Brahman, right? Remember, at this point, Arjuna has just seen the universal form and had the heck scared out of it. and then Krishna said, "Okay, you asked, I showed you now, look, here I am again." Right? And then, so Arjuna asks this kind of natural follow-up. Well, is it better to meditate on you personally or this Brahman, this impersonal feature? So Krishna could just say, "Nah, Brahman is no good, meditate on me." But he doesn't. He says that, both paths are reasonable for liberation. It's just that Brahman meditation is klesha, it's difficult. And eventually, if you do it long enough, you can succeed. But if you surrender to me, I will swiftly pull you up from the ocean of birth and death. So then this way he introduces the very best thing is to love me unconditionally. And then what does he say? What happens if you can't love me unconditionally? Are you going to hell? Then what's the next option?
Follow my devotee.
Pardon me?
Follow my devotee.
Well, yes. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Follow the rules and regulations of bhakti. Yes. Why? Because by that practice you'll develop the desire to come to me. Sometimes devotees would complain to Srila Prabhupada about all this bowing down. Yeah, Prabhupada, I bow down, but I don't feel like it. And he said, that's right, just keep bowing down, and eventually you'll feel like it. So this is the Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. If you don't love Krishna unconditionally, follow sadhana bhakti, like we're doing so nicely here at Krishna House. But if you don't, Bhakti Academy. But if you don't want to stay in the ashram and follow sadhana, then
support the preacher in the Krishna consciousness.
yes. In a broader sense, he says, work for me. Work for me can mean to give support financially with volunteer service, or to just dedicate the fruits of one's work overall to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes beautifully about this. I used to think that this was my house and my family and my career. Now I understand all this belongs to you, Krishna. It's all your property, and I'm just the caretaker. Manasadeha geho yokichimor. Even my very body, I used to think this is me. Now I understand, no, Krishna, this is your body, I'm responsible to take care of it. See, in this way, there's a third step. Okay, you don't love Krishna, practice sadhana. You don't want to practice sadhana, work for me. If you don't want to work for me, then what?
Cultivate the knowledge.
Cultivate knowledge, okay? Or even better than that is what? He mentions that as an option, but...
Serve my devotees?
Give charity?
Yes. Do some kind of selfless work, because that will bring you peace of mind. Better than knowledge for that reason. But he gives all of these options, you see. This is you know this word ecumenical? Ecumenical means like very broad-based. Spirituality is a continuum, and it's not restricted to one practice or another. Just like if you get on a train, there's a variety of cars. What class car you ride in depends on what ticket you purchase. But they're all going to the same destination, just in varying degrees of facilitation. So we don't find Krishna putting down any interest in spiritual life. Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaya. He says, out of thousands of people, hardly one is interested in spiritual life. But of thousands who are interested in spiritual life, hardly one comes to know me in full. So it's rare just to have an interest. Just to have an interest. Therefore, we want to find those special souls who come from all walks of life, who have that interest in spirituality. I had this wonderful experience last week of being in Rishikesh with His Holiness Indradumna Maharaj. Some years ago, Maharaj was in Rishikesh 4 or 5 years ago, and he's looking around. Has anyone been to Rishikesh? Yes. What did you see there that's unusual in India?
Mountains, the Ganga.
Beautiful mountains, the Ganga is there. It's a great natural setting.
And breeze of fresh air.
Fresh oceans of fresh air washing up, right? Not all like Delhi. But
the bridges, the famous bridges over there.
Bridges are there.
Hermitages of Vashishta.
Hermitages are there. It's a great sacred place. But what is unusual?
We see a lot of Western people go there.
It has 400 yoga teaching centers in Rishikesh. So people from all over the world come there to learn how to be yoga teachers. And mostly from Europe and North and South America, Australia, Asia, all over. So there's lots and lots of foreigners in the street everywhere. That's what was so unusual. So Maharaj he's a very creative teacher of Krishna consciousness, and he was thinking, how could we do something for all these people here and give them a deeper understanding of yoga? So he was standing outside one ashram. There are many, many ashrams there. There's one nice ashram, and he was standing outside, and there's a sign on the door that says, no Westerners allowed. But he thought, this is such a nice place. So he asked one of his assistants, who's from Govardhan, from India, you please go and talk to them, ask if he'd be willing to talk with me. So the devotee went in, and he talked with the Mahant, the head man, and said, there's a sannyasi who would like to meet you. Oh, okay, yes, very nice. But he's from the West. Okay, one. He can come in, just one. So they sat down, and Maharaj is so charming, and they bonded, they became best friends, they spoke for 4 hours, right then and there on the spot. And the Mahant said, yes, you can have your festival here in our ashram. Right on the spot. So ever since then, every February, March, they have had a month-long festival where they just have basically 2 things, kirtan and prasad. So they have kirtan they have a kirtan workshop in the morning, and then in the evening, starting around 4:30 or 5 until 9, just nonstop kirtan. And they make this incredible feast. They feed 600 or 700 people. So all this is going on. It was just so amazing to see. And they also have, so they have some class and question and answer booth for the more interested, serious people. So Maharaj asked me to do some of the classes and do some of the Q&A booth. And so the whole presentation was based on this idea that spirituality is a continuum. It's an evolution. It is not just one versus another. It's just a question of where you want to start your practice. That was the only way to resonate with all these yogis. Because they're into all kinds of diverse yoga understandings and practices. So we didn't just say bhakti is the best. We just said, hey, yeah, this bhakti is a further fruition and development of yoga. And that palatable a presentation they can handle. And so they were dancing and dancing. I could show you a video, hundreds of people dancing. And one of the reasons the Mahant likes the devotees is because they see all these Westerners who don't really adopt Vedic practices or culture much. They just go for the classes. But Maharaj has a brilliant approach of engaging them in not only Sankirtan, but dressing up all the ladies in saris. He gets 6,000 saris donated for this event, and they just give them away. And they help the ladies put them on, and so all the ladies are looking so beautiful, dressed and dancing in saris, and all the men are just kind of, okay, what's going on? You don't put dhotis on the men because to the men it looks like giant diapers. But they're not advanced enough to adopt. But when the ladies are all dressed, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these yogis just having so much fun dancing, and they stay for hours in the kirtan, on and on and on. And then when they get tired, they go out and get on queue and have prasadam. And it's just this whole different experience than 200 hours of yoga teacher training. So the product speaks for itself. And then on top of that, we try to give a little philosophy. The most interested people come. So the point of it is that the Sankirtan movement is what is practical for this day and age. What was previously undertaken by severe austerities, by great sacrifices, by performance of Vedic rituals, is accomplished very easily in Kali Yuga, simply by the chanting of the holy name. Kalo dosha nidhe rajan, astiheka mahadguna. That in this age of Kali, there's nothing but an ocean of faults. Everything is backwards, everything is wrong. And it's getting faultier and faultier. Coming from America, I can attest to this. There's crazy things happening in the world, and any sense of honor and honesty and decency has pretty much been flushed south of the border. So Kali Yuga is just progressing. However, the crazier things get, the better it is for the Sankirtan movement, because people will begin to see through the facade of materialism more and more. And prices go up, and there's civil unrest, and all kinds of crazy things happen. People will begin to ask, what happened to my wonderful, perfect life, you know? And this is when spiritual life begins. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. The first line of the Vedanta Sutra, or rather the first aphorism. Now that you're a human being, you should inquire what is the purpose of life. So unless we are confronted, unless we're exceptionally intelligent or confronted by some difficulty, we usually don't come to that point where we question our existence. We don't ask, why am I here? We don't ask, especially, why am I suffering? We just try to ignore the suffering and maximize the enjoyment, which is a fool's errand, because Tasyaiva heto prayate kovido, the Bhagavatam explains that pleasure is going to come and suffering is going to come. No matter what you do, they're both going to come, and you can't change that. So therefore, intelligent people don't pursue enjoyment and don't try to avoid suffering. Rather, they have a higher purpose. The higher purpose is recognizing that my life is meant for serving my Maker. That's why He made me. That's what I should do. If I do that, I'm happy. If I do that, life has meaning. If I do that, life has purpose. Otherwise, this crazy chasing of happiness and avoidance of distress both end up in failure. Right? We used to do a play, a little street play on Sankirtan, go out and do kirtan, and then the devotees would step forward and do a little mini drama right on the street. And one of them was just a newsboy came out back in, these were newspaper days, used to sell newspapers on the street. The newsboy comes out, extra, extra, read all about it, death rate hits 100%. So the rituals of the Vedas are generally performed by people who want to enhance their enjoyment of this world. That's pretty much the purpose behind it. If we do all the rituals properly, then we'll enjoy a pious life in this world and we'll get good results, and in our next life we'll enjoy even more. There's no sense of ending the suffering, it's just let's maximize our enjoyment. So the danger of having attachments in this world are that they always end in something unwanted. For example, lust. Everybody experiences lust. Lust for sense enjoyment, lust for some possession. So the problem with lust, it only ends in one or two ways. If we get what we want more. So it fosters greed. If our desire is fulfilled, then we become greedy. Okay, I want more. Why? Because it wasn't enough. It was a great rush to get what I wanted, but it didn't really satisfy, so I must get more. This is why people end up just, their whole life is pursuing money. There's a story of these two friends who met. One of them has a nice watch, nice pocket watch, old-fashioned pocket watch. And his friend said, "Oh, that's a very nice watch. Where did you get it?" He said, "Oh, it was my grandfather's. He sold it to me on his deathbed." You get it? He sold it to me on his deathbed. Couldn't be give it away. No, I get it. So, this is the mentality. If we just chase pleasure, we just become greedy and become very short-sighted. And then if we don't get what we want, then we become what? Angry, right? So desires end in either anger or greed. One way or the other, we lose. So in the Gita, Krishna says, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. The one who is freed of attachments and fear and anger. Those many sages in the past have realized me through that approach. Yehi samsparsa jabhoga. Krishna says that, therefore, intelligent people do not pursue material enjoyments because they see their sources of misery. That is the reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is so amazing. Sometimes people will just try to give up attachments, but that doesn't really work because we are pleasure-seeking by nature. So what Lord Chaitanya does, what Srila Prabhupada has brought us, is this simple method by which we can become attached to positive things. Can become attached to, like the morning program, okay? I mean, I realize sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. I'm sure you've experienced that, right? Some mornings you're fired up, some mornings you'd be fired up to stay in bed. When I first moved in the ashram, there was this young brahmachari. He would always struggle to stay awake during japa. And so one morning, very sleepy, he said to the temple president, Prabhu, I'm so sleepy. Could I please go and take some rest? Temple president says, okay, thank you. And he goes running up the stairs. So, this is, as we're reconfiguring our tastes in life, these are the kind of things that we can expect to experience. Some unsteadiness. Sometimes we'll have a taste, sometimes not. That's all right. This is actually great training for transcending the motivations based on material happiness or distress. When we rise above acting just for the sake of what might please us in the moment, we come to the point of being dutiful on the spiritual path, and then that duty turns into taste. I've had this experience in Gainesville many times where I've been running the Krishna house for some years. We'll have people move in who know a lot less about Krishna consciousness and Vedic culture than probably any of you, if not all of you, before moving in. But they agree, okay, I'll try it for a semester. I'll try it for 3 months. I'll try a bhakti immersion. Just like in Rishikesh, they have all the hundreds of yoga immersion ashrams. There's not one bhakti immersion ashram. 400 hatha ashrams, but now we have one. We're going to have an ongoing bhakti immersion ashram in Rishikesh. So anyway, these young boys or girls will come in just on a tentative basis. Oh, I have to chant. Oh, all right, I'll chant for an hour a day, and I'll follow these 4 rules, and I'll be there in time for a 6 o'clock RT in the morning. So this is a big step for these kids who don't know much about it. And we screen them to see, are they dutiful enough to keep this commitment? And if we feel they'll keep it, then okay. So then after a month, very uncertain about whether they made the right decision. Then all of a sudden, at some point, the light bulb goes on, and they say, hey, this is fun. In fact, the last thing in the world they were expecting. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. So that just reinforces the understanding that is there in the scriptures, that loving Krishna is dormant and natural in everyone. Everybody. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sadhuka Bhunoi. So just given a chance to experience, this is what Lord Chaitanya has given. Well, this highest level of yogic realization, actually, to have a taste for serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gives it very easily, readily to everybody at a very low price. So therefore, in this Kali Yuga, people are either very fortunate or very unfortunate. Even the followers of the Vedic rituals, they're on the path, they're in the continuum, they're in the spectrum, but still it's just not enough. It's said that if all your rituals don't bring you love of God, what is the use of your rituals? And if you have love of God, what is the need for the rituals? So in both cases, we know the goal, then we can understand and progress on the path. Just like, it's funny how Sukracharya is speaking here, you know? The Sukracharya who created all the trouble in the first place. Now, having seen Lord Vamanadev and now the personal appearance of Lord Vishnu, he's also straightened out his philosophical understanding. And he's saying, yes, there may be discrepancies in regard to the pronunciations and so forth, but when your Lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. Just one last story in that regard, and then I'll stop. I think I mentioned this before, but I love this story, especially relevant for this. So there's a great devotee named Jayananda Prabhu. Jayananda Prabhu was you know who he is? You've heard, yes? So Jayananda Prabhu was a college student. After he got his engineering degree, he went to San Francisco looking for spirituality and wasn't finding it, was driving a cab, he was very almost suicidal, just hopeless about his spiritual quest. But then he met Prabhupada, and he immediately had this feeling, this man won't cheat me. So he started going. Sometimes he'd be the only person at the class in the morning. The evening class would be full, but the morning class, sometimes it was only him and Prabhupada. So Prabhupada loved him very much. He loved Prabhupada very much. He became his disciple. He was the only disciple with a job. He was driving a taxi. He'd give all his earnings to support the temple. Just a fantastic, wonderful, surrendered devotee. He had some money saved. He gave it to Prabhupada to print one of his books. Prabhupada loved him very much. But Jayananda Prabhu was not great at Sanskrit pronunciation. He was very devoted, but that was difficult for him. So he learned the Gayatri mantra from Prabhupada, which is a 7-line mantra. The idea is you say it for a week or 2 or 3, and then you'll have it memorized. But Jayananda was struggling with it. So when this new devotee, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, then Tamal Krishna Brahmacharya, was going to get his second initiation, Jayananda said, maybe I should go with you and get a refresher. I'm having a hard time remembering. And so they went together. They explained. Prabhupada said, yes, sure, so we'll start with you, Jayananda. Then he repeated the first line of the mantra after me. Om, Om, Bur, Bhava, so on. So then he said, now you say it. And Jayananda couldn't say it. He tried again. He couldn't say it. For half an hour he tried. Couldn't say it. Finally Prabhupada smiled and said, it is hopeless. But because you are sincere, whatever you say, Krishna will accept it. So from that time on, Jayananda Prabhu was known as having the fastest Gayatri in the West. Everyone would sit down to say Gayatri, 30 seconds later, Jayananda was up. Back to work. So even if there's discrepancies in the practices, because of the power of the holy name, everything becomes faultless. Jai. All right, any comments, reflections, questions? Yes, Abhinav Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was listening to a seminar by Radha Herman Prabhu on how to read Sanskrit for study, and he was mentioning that all the Vedas, they require so many conditions to be effective, but Mahaprabhu, he made the Mahamantra such that without any, like you can chant in any time, any circumstance, none of those conditions that are needed for Vedic mantras are not needed for the Mahamantra, and that is why it's so potent. And the class here reminded me of that.
Thank you. Yes, right on the point. Yes, no conditions. Do you know this line from the Shikshastakam?
Which?
The second verse. Yeah, Smarane na kala. There is no condition. Right, Smarane na kala. No hard and fast rules. Good.
So just talking about rituals, and yagya was also mentioned in the purport. So some people can also see, whatever we do, not just in ISKCON, like in Vaishnava tradition, seeking shelter, then taking initiation, and then there's yagya for it. All these things can also be seen as ritual, Or I'm just trying to understand how is this different from regular rituals?
Right, like we go to Mangalarti and we chant the Guru Vastakam prayers. Isn't that a ritual?
Yeah.
It is. It is. It is kind of a minimized presentation, right? Just in other words, Srila Prabhupada selected just 2 bhajans, a handful of bhajans that we sing every morning. And it was nice, I see you're chanting additional ones, which is beautiful. So he gave us many, many more. He gave us a few that are required. This is explained, I think we read that here, right? That the Acharya can make the adjustments. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's this purport, but anyway, the point is that the Acharya will give the prescribed presentation for the success of the students. Just like an expert physician, there's so many medications in the drugstore, but the expert physician will evaluate and prescribe appropriately. And we see that some devotees just do those minimums and they do fine. Other devotees will say, okay, I got those down, I want to do more and more and more, and that's also fine. See? So if we said, oh, you have to know so many things in order to be a devotee, then not many could do it. But with this very simple level. It's okay, yeah, we could say they're rituals. They're rituals that awaken us to our love of Krishna. So in that sense, they're not Vedic rituals for the sake of some material goal. Okay? This was Prabhupada's genius and his greatness. He gave just the right amount to make it effective. Okay? That's pretty good. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the evening class. I have this question, like we were discussing, in the beginning that Krishna says that if you cannot do this, do this, do this, he's giving all the steps, and which also includes different yogas, right? Jnana yoga, and, like karma yoga and everything. But we understand from different verses that only devotee can give you bhakti, right? So why these steps, and will this step lead to bhakti eventually, or only devotees, or some devotee can give you bhakti?
Right, well, as far as eventually, everything leads us to bhakti eventually. Yayata mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna says, everyone is on my path. So even banging our heads on materialism is part of the process. When we get tired of it, then we can take the next step. So, can we get bhakti? Yes, this is the prescription that Krishna gives, and this is why Prabhupada emphasized these two particular bhajans for a part of our morning ritual, is that yes, we can only get bhakti from the devotee. It's a very simple philosophy to understand that if we want to approach God, we approach Him through His agents. Just like if we want to approach any official in the government, we have to call and make an appointment, right? We have to talk to a secretary who runs a schedule. We have to have a good reason, just to get even to a low-level bureaucrat, what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is why this Ritvik philosophy is so ridiculous, because they say you can only approach God through Prabhupada, you can only approach Krishna through Prabhupada. No one else is qualified. Well, how do we approach Prabhupada, right? Right? It's the Das, Anudas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis 1,000 times removed. So in that respect, the further down the chain we get, the more likely we are to connect with Krishna. We serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And so this is the reason why we get bhakti in that way. Tadvedi pranipatena. Krishna tells us how to approach Him. And so many of these atheists and scientists have the same ridiculous argument. Have you heard? Well, why doesn't God just show Himself in 5 minutes, the whole question will be resolved? Therefore, I don't believe in God, because if He was there, He'd obviously just show up and we'd all be straightened out. So it's like, it's such a arrogant attitude. So why doesn't the Prime Minister of Canada walk in here right now? If he doesn't walk in, I don't believe him. He exists. But why should he come and see us? What is our qualification, right? We never ask, we never look introspectively, what are my qualifications to see God? We just say, well, God, you show up, and I may do you a big favor and start believing you. Maybe. I'll think about it. You show up and I'll think about it. So Krishna reciprocates. That person doesn't really want to see God. If we really want to see God, He sends the pure devotee to our midst. Yeah. Yes? Prabhu.
Srimad Bhagavatam is also considered as conclusion of Vedas, and as per Vedic rituals, like in Dwapar Yuga or in Treta Yuga, in Mahabharata we see what everyone did was just performing sacrifices. Yudhishthira Maharaj, the only thing that he was doing was just doing the fire sacrifices all the time, even though Krishna was right there with them, but he was fully engaged into doing fire sacrifices one after one, and Krishna himself made him do 3 Ashwamedha sacrifices and all. So why, Krishna emphasized on those sacrifices when he himself was present?
Because that was the means of self-realization in that age. That was the appropriate Yuga Dharma for that particular age. But that changed after Krishna's departure. Kali Yuga kicked in. So now the Harinam is the Yuga Dharma.
And Vedas, it is said that to have more material benefits or to go to higher planets, we can kind of do the sacrifices and all.
Mhm.
But is there any possible way that Vedas or those sacrifices help us to burn our sins, or they just give us Sukriti only?
Right. It's compared to bathing in the Ganga. You have to do it many, many times. Whereas if you associate with a pure devotee just in that moment, Labhamatra Sarvasanga, Sarvasiddhi Hoy, the Vedic rituals will gradually help one progress. But again, why take the long route? Srila Prabhupada said it was like this. You can scratch your nose like this or like this. So why take the hard way?
What's your opinion about the Mahakumbh Tirth going on in India?
Yeah, this is a good example. People are going for promotion in the future or to be blessed. Yeah, and it's good. It's good. My friend Achyutananda Prabhu was in India with Srila Prabhupada. He was one of the very first devotees to come to India with Prabhupada. And he was raised in the Christian faith. So he saw there in Calcutta that they were doing Kali Puja. And Kali Puja involves sacrificing goats. And it's rather bloody. And he'd never seen anything like this. So he was asking, Prabhupada, which is better, Christianity or this Kali Puja? He said Prabhupada thought about it, and then he said the Kali Puja is better because at least it's following some systematic approach. Before killing the goat, they're supposed to say a mantra, now I'm killing you, in your next life you can come and kill me. See? So it's some kind of progressive Vedic system. In other words, even people who are so low class they want to kill animals, there's some provision for them in the Vedas. However, it's abused, but that's the point. Modern Christianity, on the other hand, is quite without reference to parampara. And it's been so much distorted that it's kind of lost the bhakti of Jesus. Okay, so we'll stop there. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Kripa Sindhu.